Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Meet the Author webinar. Today, we will be highlighting the creative side of 4-H, focusing on three recently released project books from the Ohio State University Extension, Get Started in Art, My Favorite Things, and The Writer in You. I'm Elena Maxler with the National 4-H Council, and I'll be your moderator today. We have just a few housekeeping notes before we begin. First, the webcast console you are looking at can be completely customized, which means you can open, close, resize, and move any of the windows you have open. The icons at the bottom of your screen represent various widgets that you can open or close. I'd like to highlight just a few of them. First, the question mark represents the help guide, which covers common technical issues. If you're experiencing any technical difficulties, try clicking here first. And I would like to add that we've had some difficulty in previous webinars with people being able to hear this audio. If you're having that problem, of course you can't hear me, but I guess this is good for future reference, try logging out and logging back in because that tends to solve the problem. The message icon in the middle of the list opens the group chat box. We recommend that you open group chat as it's a great way to communicate with fellow attendees, and it's also where you can ask questions of the presenters. The piece of paper is the resource list, where you'll be able to view and download a copy of today's slide deck. There are also links to the 4-H Mall and the Meet the Author webinar page. And then finally, the person icon is for presenter information, which contains the speaker's bios and contact info. A recorded version of this webcast will be available in approximately 1 day, and it can be accessed using the same link that you used to sign on today. Feel free to listen again and also share with your colleagues. Our presenters today are John Cook, Christy Millhouse, and Jane Wright. John is the Executive Director of the McConnell Arts Center in Worthington, Ohio. Christy is an extension educator and leads the 4-H program in Preble County, Ohio. And Jane is the Curriculum Manager for Ohio 4-H. John, Christy, and Jane, thanks for joining us, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks so much, Elena. This is Jane Wright from Ohio, and I'd like to introduce these three books by talking about features that are common to all of them. All three of these project books are member-directed as opposed to leader-directed. They're intended to be completed by 4-H members who are working with their project helpers. Sometimes these books are used in groups, in small group settings, and that's perfectly appropriate too. It's not, however, these are not, however, full-fledged leader-directed books written in a way, where someone is leading a classroom, for example. All of these books are repeatable. That is, a student could buy them again and complete the activities in slightly different ways. That's perfectly acceptable in our system as long as there's evidence of more learning every year. And of course, they're based on the experiential model. You'll see when we take a closer look how the experiential model is manifested in these books. They are cross-referenced to national academic content standards. Two of them, My Favorite Things and Get Started in Art, refer to visual arts standards, and the last one, The Writer in You, refers to National English Language Arts Standards. This is let me go back one time, sorry. Every book includes a member project guide at the front that helps 4-H members keep track of their progress. All of the learning outcomes are included in a summary at the end of each book, so it's easy for adults to find out the learning that takes place by completing these projects. In Ohio, the group that is most interested in the summary of learning outcomes is our homeschool and after-school groups. Okay, with that, let's dig into a specific book. We're starting with My Favorite Things.
Great. Thanks, Jane. This is John Cook from the McConnell Arts Center in Worthington, and we are a private nonprofit community arts center in Worthington and serve about 70,000 people per year. Jane had approached us a few years ago to create helped create Getting Started in Art, as well as I was a reader and a reviewer on My Favorite Things. So one of the things that we are interested in doing is trying to help support and embrace and encourage those individuals or those individuals that are interested in creativity in the 4-H program, to give them the opportunity to really explore that fully, to really have a self-directed way to do that. And more importantly, as you go through each one of these books, is that they don't necessarily need to be online all the time, that there is the opportunity to create projects or complete projects within the books with things that they can find around home or through resources that are available locally, because we do have a lot of diverse individuals that complete the book. So in My Favorite Things, the youth that are doing the projects in the book are really talking about creating a collection. And as you look at the list on the next page, any and all collections are fair game. So that it could be a collection of crayons, it could be a collection of rubber bands or toy trucks. There's a variety of opportunities that exist. And as we look at some of the projects and questions, they're appropriate for members of all age and skill levels. It's a very colorful book, as well as very active as you go through each one of those sections. As you can see here, we have just a brief notice of what people can work on for their own collection. Inside of the book, this is the format of My Favorite Things. And as you can see, each one of the projects and activities has an outline of what to do. Did you know, sort of an insider scoop about each one of those activities. And then each one of the activities includes more challenges. So as people repeat or youth repeat the book, the opportunity to explore those more challenges are there. We see at the state level that a lot of students do continue on and complete those more challenges in each one of the project areas. You can see here, and for example, in one of our activities, Activity 3, which is getting started in the project area of which you would love to collect. Each one of these activities really focuses on a life skill as well. So when you look at each one of those activities, the life skill attached to getting an idea of what you would like to collect or what you're passionate about is really about making decisions. And as I said, it's really further identifying those passions within that individual, and how do they stay motivated as they work through the book. So the state standards are there, but it's also implicit of some underlying activities and feelings that are involved in each one of the activities. Same thing on Activity 4. One thing that I found very interesting about the book is that there is math involved in art and creativity as well. So in Activity 4, for example, the participant is asked to create a budget about their collection. So, obviously that has to do with managing resources as a life skill, but the indirect result is that, there's real math involved within collection. So, there's a chart involved in the book of which they're able to fill out and manage their resources effectively. Once again, when you walk through each one of these books, the more challenges in each one of these sections are very active, and they really do support the idea of independent exploration. And as I said, a lot of students and a lot of individuals have some diverse opportunities available to them, so that more challenges really does delve into the opportunity for individuals to learn a little more about collecting. For example, did you know that a collector who buys and sells stuff, what sort of their budget is? So it's a deeper dive into into that project opportunity. And then in each one of the activities, there's also an opportunity for them to discuss, to write down their thoughts as far as personal insights on what they've discovered within that activity. We see at the state level, at the judging state level, that a lot of individuals do really flesh that out very succinctly as far as talking over in their book how they would like to share additional thoughts on their project. What are their reflections? What is sort of their perception about what that activity is, and then it asks the question: Did you really stick to that? Stick to those perceptions? And if not, that's fine. But the opportunity to really discuss and to talk a little further about learning from somebody's mistakes that may not have worked out. Some additional benefits for my favorite things is one is, as I said at the very beginning, that the book provides opportunities for those young people to really identify their passions and emotional ties. Also, as I said, the idea about math being involved and the ability to further articulate their thoughts and ideas about their collections. It's not just about an accumulation of stuff. It's more about choice. It's more about that idea of making an effort to really provide a little more a substantial opportunity for their own collection. And then of course when they have the opportunity to write it down and talk it over, they can also discuss that with their leader, with their parent, at their after-school leader, as well as other friends within their 4-H groups. That when we see once again at the state level, a lot of those finalists do have the opportunity to discuss their projects with peers and also to share their experiences as well. So we see a lot of excitement, a lot of attachment. And they're really thrilled to really provide their insights on this great activity book. It's also, as you can see, it's very colorful. It's very engaging, and I think that it also sort of speaks to a little more contemporary look at things as far as collecting is concerned. So it's a great book, and as I said, we see a high level of excitement and engagement with the activity book. Anybody have any questions? All right, Jane.
Oh, I'm sorry. John, just go ahead and move into Get Started in Art.
Oh, you want me to take that as well?
I do. I'm sorry. I thought we knew that.
No, that's fine.
Go and I'll jump in as needed.
No, exactly. So getting started in art, much like my favorite things, is really geared towards the visual arts. In particular, ceramics, drawing, painting, sculpture, printmaking, design, and a little bit of craft opportunity as well. It explores from the very basic elements of visual art to a little more advanced opportunities, and it really is starts from the idea of color, line, space, balance, negative space, as well as positive space, and the activities reflect that. Once again, we see members of all ages completing the book, and the book's been out a few years, and actually a lot of students actually repeat those activities and do it annually. And there's 44 full color pages, and this book is in a calendar format, so it opens from bottom to top, which also provides a little more creative look at the way that they can complete projects. As you can see here, here's activity 1, seeing emotion, and each one of the books or each one of the activities in Getting Started in Art has the same style where we have an introduction, what to do, talking it over, and a little background. The difference between this book and My Favorite Things is actually each one of these project areas has a blank page in the middle of it, of which they can complete a sample of their work, and whether it's a small sample, whether it's a portfolio that they can develop further on their own, it is an active way for them to document their activities. Once again, there's no judgment on artistic talent. It's just about the elements of art as they're going through each one of these books. As you can see on activity.
Can I interject a little bit?
Sure.
Could I interject something, John?
Absolutely.
Okay, on Activity 1, I do want to show how this book is repeatable. I think Get Started in Art is one of the best examples of how the same curriculum can be used over and over so that kids continue to learn from it. In this What to Do, they find an example, their own example, of a picture that expresses a lot of feeling. If they redo this they can do this, of course, for as many years as they take this project, simply by finding new pictures to talk about. And of course, there's an endless supply. It seems like a very simple idea when I talk about it now, but when we were writing this book, it was really difficult to come up with these kinds of repeatable activities. Nonetheless, every single What to Do in this book ends with some direction about, if you repeat this project, do this. And so it really does lend itself to being done multiple times. Thanks, John. I just want to underscore that.
Great. Thanks, Jane. You can see here on Activity 3, we have an object breakdown. And in Activity 3, for example, Jane was saying that there's, if you repeat this project, you select a new object each time. But the object breakdown includes color, line, form, and texture, of which, once again, finding objects around their own home. So it's not just, it's not that they have to explore outside of the home and get online and do an exhaustive search. It's those everyday things that they find around the house, of which they're able to take a picture of, a drawing. Some do rubbing, some do cutouts, some do cartoons, that those objects are attached within each one of those activities. So as I said, the repeatable, or Jane said, the repeatable activities within each one of these books has an endless amount of opportunities that exist. You can see that on Activity 11, it says Make Your Own Project. And in the back of the book, there is a whole list. Actually, there's, I forgot how many there are, Jane. I'm going to look here real fast. There's 20 additional projects up and beyond the activities that you can make on your own. So the encouragement to really not only explore each activity within the book, but also as a whole to identify new projects outside of those activities. So once again, 20 different project ideas, of which are just a start, gives them the opportunity to really explore fully if they wish to do that. As they've repeated this over a couple of years, it's the jumping off point for them to be reminded that that their creativity and the way that they create their own projects is endless. And then once again, it doesn't necessarily always happen within the book. A lot of students may do a portfolio, or the encouragement of putting together a picture book, a sketchbook. I've even seen some students and participants come with iPads and do a digital sort of review of what they've done. So whatever medium is comfortable with each one of those students, they're able to really be able to create a successful project. and really to learn a lot about art in general from the very beginning to a little more advanced examples. So as you can see here, I've just taken a few pictures of some pretty creative final projects at State. Some of them, actually these are long tables that the projects were spread out on at the end of the judging opportunity, and not one of those projects is exactly the same, which is fantastic. And a lot of, and once again, when they all come together as a group, a lot of students made this maybe their first foray into an artistic venture. So the encouragement through the activities in the book and also through the reflection that, there is no right or wrong ultimate project. It's just, the idea of experimenting, the idea that creativity takes on many different forms, and that your own creativity is your own creativity. So it's a great opportunity for them to really explore further, to learn a lot, as well as to really, as I said, learn the basics as well as advanced principles of art in general.
Hey, thanks, John.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that. Okay, we're moving on to The Writer in You with Christy Millhouse.
All right. Well, I am really excited to be here. I'm going to actually back up a slide. I think we skipped. Maybe not. There we go. I'm a 4-H educator here in Ohio, and I'm so excited and was excited to be part of writing this particular book for a couple reasons. I've always been a writer, and I've always loved that process and enjoyed doing that. And then when I started as an educator, it was kind of interesting to me because we actually took a project that I took as a 4-H'er back in the 80s, I'm aging myself, and revised it into something that is a little bit more modern and a little bit more user-friendly, but kept a lot of the really good pieces of the old book and a lot of the really good activities, and then wove those in and then added some new things along the way. And so we were really excited about that. And so really The Writer in You, it does a few things. It provides motivation and directions for youth. We really want them to explore the art of creative writing, and whether they're a beginner or whether they have some experience, they can take and start wherever they're at and whatever level they're at. And there's a lot of different activities, so they're really covering all different aspects of writing. We really wanted to delve in and give them the tools to put all those pieces together and to write. So they're looking at not only where you get inspiration, but also the pieces and parts of writing like plot and theme and things like that along the way. And then one of the things we really liked at the end was the whole concept of keeping everything in one place, the idea of creating a portfolio and using that as a way to document their work and to look and see what they've done. And I think with writing as well, you can really see writers grow along the way. And so those portfolios, especially if they repeat the project, give them the opportunity to look at their writing, to really think about how have I grown and where do I go from here. And so that's kind of a neat piece of that as well. And again, 42 color pages, so it's fun to look at and fun to work through. So let's jump in here a little bit. Project areas, there are 11 different activities and 4 main project areas, and we really looked at that and divided that, talking about writing for self-expression. So we really looked at that whole concept of what do the 4-H members like to read, what do they like to look at as far as literature, and how does that translate into their writing style, looking at where they find inspiration and looking at the world around them for inspiration, those types of things. We looked at the elements of creative writing, so again, those pieces and parts of stories and writing pieces, so plot and theme and character, and looking at how those are developed through writing, looking at language a little bit and how words are so important and the language we use is important, and doing that as well. And we also included in that part some information about poetry for those who like to write poetry as well. And then at the end, the whole concept of sharing what the members have done and sharing with other people the work that they've done. And so that's kind of a part of what we've included. So let's move on and we'll look at a couple activities here. So this is activity 1 in the book. And again, some of the things I really enjoy about the way that the book is laid out and looking at it both from a 4-H educator perspective, but I'm a 4-H parent as well. I have children in the program, and so it's really important for me to be able to have a book for my children and for the youth I work with that's easy to follow and easy to go along. And so that's what I like about this book is it's really easy to do that. And so we have that whole introduction and some background and information that they really need to do the activity, and then it tells them exactly what they need to do. And so in the literature buffet, again, they're looking at what kind of genre that they prefer, looking at different things, finding what things really speak to them, and then talking about those and writing those down and really thinking about that. And as we talked about with the other books, there's also the opportunity for more challenges, and so that's the way that youth can really expand a little bit, to challenge themselves a little bit more, and to repeat the project in other years and do that as well. One of the activities we don't have on the slide, but is one of my favorites, is Activity 5, which looks at That's What I Call a Story, and it's kind of a fun exploration into the concept of plot and looking at what a plot is, and using the concept of the story of the Three Little Pigs to let kids pull that apart and look at the elements of the plot. And then in the more challenges, to do a fractured fairy tale, which is really retelling a traditional fairy tale in a little different way. And then I also like the pieces of these books where we talk about the did you know. So we pull these little fun pieces of information that relate to the activity and relate to that particular area. And so that's another fun piece as well. And throughout all our books, too, there's the opportunity to share, to reflect, to generalize and apply in each of these project areas. And you find at the end of each section the opportunity to do that, to kind of think about those different parts, to go back and look at those and talk it over, and think about sharing what they've learned and reflecting on it, and then applying what they've learned as well. And so that's a good part of this book as well. Let's move on. So Activity 11 is really where we pull things together at the end, and it looks at the whole concept of a writing portfolio. And again, we thought this was really important because we wanted the youth to be able to put together everything they've done in the project, to look at all the different pieces of their writing together. And so this is their writing portfolio, and it's basically looking again at presenting a professional a professional way to look at their writing. And so under what to do, it tells exactly what we're looking for in the portfolio, taking some of the activities throughout the book and putting them together, and then also adding any other writing that they do. And I find when I've talked to youth who take creative writing and the old creative writing project and even this new project, that their kids, they like to write. That's why they're taking this. And so they are writing in journals. They're writing on their own. They're doing that all along, so they can put those into this writing portfolio also as examples of work and those types of things. So it gives them the opportunity to really share and to highlight what it is that they've learned and what they've done throughout the project. And that's kind of a fun way to do that. And I had the opportunity this year to actually sit with a young man who'd taken the project and do a project judging with him. And it was really fun to watch the project develop, how it had developed, and to know the thought process behind the different activities, and then to talk to him about how he had used the book, the things that he'd learned. And he didn't know I was one of the authors, and I was able to ask him some questions about the activities he did. And I was really excited and proud that the book worked the way that we wanted it to work, and he gained out of it the things that we wanted our youth to be gaining. And so it's really exciting that this project is available, that we were able to provide something for those kids who do like to write, and to provide a way in the 4-H program for them to learn a little bit more about creative writing. And I think that leads us into any questions anybody might have.
Okay, this is Elena. If anyone has any questions, go ahead and type them in the group chat box. And while we're waiting for anything that may come in, I would just first like to thank our presenters today. This is fantastic. So these are 3 new books that we have at the 4-H Mall, and we're very excited to be offering them, and you can just hear the enthusiasm in their voices. So it's just very cool for me to hear that as well. So thank you for your time today, and also for your time to develop these great materials.
Our pleasure.
And while we're waiting for any questions, I do have a couple of announcements here at the end. The first is that every April we offer a 25% discount on all of our educational materials, both curriculum books and materials kits offered through the 4-H Mall. So these books, which are already a great value, or even an even better value in April, if you plan ahead for your program year, we encourage you to do your purchasing then. And the other announcement that I have is just another plug for our webinar series. So we started our webinar series at the end of January, and we'll be running webinars on Wednesdays through March 22nd. We are recording all the webinars, so if you miss a time, you can go back and watch the recording. And the link to the webinars is in your resource list. It's just 4hmall.org/webinars. You can go ahead and check those out. And it doesn't look like we have any questions, so that may do it for today. John, Christy, or Jane, do you have any final words here?
No, not at all. If someone has any specific questions following this webinar, of course, they're free to contact me at Ohio 4-H.
Okay, great. Okay, well, thanks, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Tina.